Hi, friends, and welcome to the Short Story Contest Award Show. I'm Mr. Newman, and I've been running the contest for the past 17 years. Normally, we'd be doing this in the Hendrik Chenault Theater, but, well, normal is being decidedly abnormal these days, so I'm coming to you via the internet. First of all, I want to thank the 39 students who submitted stories this year. That's a great number. Regardless of how you did, keep writing, keep creating, and keep putting your stuff out there. In just a few moments, we'll hear the 5 winning stories read by the writers themselves. But first, I want to tell you a little about how the contest was judged. All of the stories were submitted anonymously. Writers only included their student ID numbers. In the first round, each story was read and evaluated by 4 out of 10 judges who ranked their top 5 stories. And in the final round, the top 13 stories were read by all 10 judges who ranked their top 5. The winning stories had the highest rankings overall. Many of the stories in both rounds earned top 5 votes from some of the judges, so if you didn't make it to the podium this year, keep on writing and submitting. I want to take a moment to thank the folk who volunteered to judge the contest. Faculty judges included Steve Allen, Bob Amar, Patrick Boswell, Dwan Henderson, Robin Martin, Alex Reynolds, David Silverman, and Catherine Woodruff. And student judges included Thornton Kennedy, Catherine Sherling, and Paxton Trevette. Thank you to all of them for being such enthusiastic, thoughtful readers. I also want to acknowledge the students who reached the final round but didn't place in the top 3. You'll be able to read some of these stories in The Signature, Lovett's literary magazine coming out later this spring. We have Joey Boveri, Holt Burge, Sarah Dowling, Penny King, Katie Meyer, Aaron McFadden, Megan McGean, Charlotte Pollard, and Cameron Washington. Okay, and now for this year's winners. We had 3 students tie for 3rd place, and there was 1 second place and 1 first place. The topics were varied, as always, as were the tones, varying from mysterious to haunting to nostalgic to absurd. We'll start off with 3rd place winner, senior Hunter Fankhauser, with his story, The Strawberry.
Mary Fearless's mom says that her daughter's strawberry addiction is due to her rich scarlet hair. Mary's fingers were practically stained with a vermilion tint from how many times the fruit's juices had dripped down her hand. She went through at least 2 boxes of Driscoll's a week, and that's an understatement. Everyone at school had always made fun of Mary's red hair, especially Dorothy West. Something about Ginger's being soulless. Dorothy's hair was so blonde that it could have belonged to a polar bear. Mary used to be good friends with Dorothy before she decided that popularity was more important than a real friendship. How could anyone like someone this mean on the inside? But at the end of the day, Mary just tried to stay in her own lane with her and her strawberries. One week, Mrs. Fearless returned from her Publix run with Mary's weekly supply of strawberries. She set them in the fridge, and Mary came down a couple hours later for her afternoon snack. She pulled out the carton, snapped it open, and suddenly the most striking image hit her: a golden strawberry. This wasn't just a strawberry, it was the strawberry. Its sexy, brilliant skin shined and winked at her, almost seductively. It was as if God himself had taken form as a strawberry. Some might call her reaction dramatic, but Mary simply examined the berry from all angles in awe. Its symmetry was enticing, its shape alluring. No other strawberry could compare. Holy cow, thought Mary, this belongs in a museum. A specimen so mystical that Mary felt guilty for wanting to eat it. Was it so beautiful that it couldn't be eaten, or was it so beautiful that it just had to be eaten? Mary took one last look at the strawberry. Something about its hypnotic gaze put Mary in a trance. Her mouth watered up, as did her eyes. Before she knew it, she couldn't help herself. She opened wide, and her teeth sunk into the strawberry like a vampire. An explosion of the fruit's blood gushed into her mouth, and she prepared herself for heaven. Except it didn't come. Mary's eyes widened in disbelief. Frankly, the strawberry sucked. She quickly spit it out. This is hands down the most foul flavor to ever hit my tongue, she cried in disgust. The closest comparison she could draw was the pink alginate that orthodontists used to take retainer impressions. How could this happen, thought Mary. She hadn't felt this level of betrayal since Dorothy didn't invite Mary to her birthday party back in 3rd grade. With this thought about Dorothy, she paused and looked back at what was left of the strawberry. Sure, it was pretty, but with a taste like that, it simply didn't matter. She saw everything clearly. She laughed, tossed the half-eaten golden strawberry in the trash, and poured herself a bowl of classic, beautiful scarlet strawberries. Gold is pretty, but some things are just meant to be red.
Tied for third, here is sophomore George Izard with The Ocean.
Once I lay in bed reminiscing about my preschool years. I pulled my sleeping quilt to my chin and suddenly saw the same one with younger eyes. While my parents talked in another room, I mischievously ignored their previous orders and unbuttoned the fasteners on the edge of my bed's quilt, revealing a welcoming cavern. The struggle on my 4-year-old fingers was rewarded by a vast adventure awaiting inside the quilt. I entered and held a makeshift roof of cotton-filled, quilted pockets over my head. Some clusters sagged from roof to floor, creating an enchanting space that changed with shape with every movement. With arms up, in jumping jack position, I could make the blanket feel as large as a palace. As soon as I dropped my arms and straightened my legs, the buoyant, quilted pockets of cotton slowly descended onto my head, and all around me, I'm covered. The blanket warms me, secures me, and provides the sensation of a hug from Mom and Dad. I lay down, but now the pockets cake every inch of my body, heavy as a metal blanket. Comfort distorts into claustrophobia. I yearn for the cozy feeling I just experienced. With my left hand, I grab the far upper end of the blanket and pull it to my right. I clasp a pocket of wadded blanket between my legs and pull it to the ceiling. I toss, turn, spin, and crumple the blanket until up is down and left is right, and nothing is anything and everything is one. Soft cotton quilted compartments, blanket, and me. I'm drenched in sweat and completely knotted in quilted pockets of cotton. Feeling anxious, tense, and trapped, I thrash, pant, and scream for escape, but my voice cannot penetrate the layered, thick, quilted pockets of cotton. This memory feels too vivid. I try to wake up. Only in this bed where I lay remembering, I fashioned the same predicament with my very own sleeping quilt. Past and present become indistinguishable. When is now? Where are my memories? Am I alive? I'm trapped, physically and mentally, fixed between two instances that happen simultaneously. I'm a boy, a young man, a parent, a grandparent, then a nobody, all in a split second. Time stops moving. Rather, it doesn't exist. My memories twist, contort, and mesh until they all shrivel away and leave me stroking my quilt. Mr. Izard, pounds a soft but demanding voice. I look at her. Sorry, Mr. Izard, but when you stare off into space like that for so long, I worry you've died. The caretakers at this old folks' home were so blunt. No, they are so blunt. I can never tell. The word dementia echoes in my mind, pulsating, the waves of each letter crashing into all corners of my brain. Eventually, my mind will fall into its ocean. Until then, I caress my quilt with wrinkled fingers and search for another memory.
And our final third place winner is senior Towner Schunk with Dolph End of the World.
I once believed that we, the highly evolved race of beings who inhabit and dominate the earth, who created tools to bend nature to our will, who stepped on the moon and sent satellites hurtling into the void, who created medicine and technology, war and peace, love and hate, were the masters of our universe. To put it plainly, I was wrong. Dolphins into the Stone Age. Experts say agriculture soon to follow. That was the day everything changed. I laughed at my television. Dolphins? What has the sensationalist media come to? Dolphins. Oh, how naive I was. How naive we all were. In a matter of hours, my internet feed was inundated with memes about dolphins and their new ability to use tools. But as was common in the 2020s, as soon as people lost interest and the views died down, the information on dolphins was dropped just as quickly as it was picked up. Silently, the dolphins learned. Due to an increase in illegal seaside nuclear waste disposal, genetic mutations were occurring at an unprecedented rate in marine life. With the addition of a new set of bones in their flippers, dolphins could effectively hold small tools. They were essentially a new species. At first, marine biologists observed these newly thumbed dolphins displaying an almost childlike sense of enjoyment from smashing rocks at the bottom of the ocean, and deemed them harmless. One YouTuber named Chad Maverick gained a sizable following from his videos on the dolphins. He viewed them as his friends, even naming one Casanova due to his successes with a multitude of females. One day, while Chad was on a routine dive, Casanova smashed a rock, splintering it to pieces. Casanova paused and stared blankly at the sharp objects he had created. Without warning, he grabbed a shard and rushed Chad, slitting his throat swiftly and painfully. The video went silent, and so did the world's leadership. The U.S. military thought it was best to put Casanova down so he wouldn't kill again, but the dolphins had a different plan. They organized themselves supernaturally fast, immediately coming together to strengthen their numbers. The other dolphins seemed to view Casanova as their leader. He was the one with the dagger, after all. As the military closed in on the pod, the dolphins went on the offense, ravaging their ships and brutalizing everyone in their path. Bullets and missiles slid off them like water. It became apparent that, along with the addition of thumbs, the dolphins had also developed a sense of telepathic communication, a method for walking on land and invulnerability. It's been 7 years since that fated day. Me and some others pleaded with the dolphins for mercy while they murdered billions. They allowed us our lives and even a job, too. We performed for them, giving them rides, doing tricks, and in turn they give us food, water, and even a place to stay. It's somewhat humiliating, but we aren't dead yet. Are we?
Our second place winner is senior Mackenzie Boden with Unstitched.
What's that on your lip? 5 words make the sun and the moon reverse in the sky until I blink and I'm 4 years old again. 5 words make the previously healed skin over my cheeks split, black thread weaving its way through my face. I'm there again, but this time it's backwards. The Tinkerbell sticker unsticks itself from my pink dress and floats back into the nurse's hand. I try to walk forward, but my feet disobey, walking backwards into the tiny room, no bigger than a closet. The pristine white counter and the cold metal table beckon me, and my body floats onto it. A thin white sheet wraps itself around me, tighter and tighter until I can't move my arms and legs. 2 straps fly over the side, fastening me to the table. A doctor peering over, brandishing a silver needle, disrupts my blurring vision. The thread in my face, stitch by stitch, and weaves itself. My left eye won't open with the blood crusting it shut. I hold back my screams so the string of skin keeping my top lip attached to my face won't snap. Then my mother appears, begging the doctor to not put me under. I blink and I'm outside the room, the walls flying by as the gurney rushes back to the parking garage. The car door swings open and a woman, whose name I still don't know, stretches her arms out for me. I blink again and the car races backwards. My mother is driving while the woman dabs my face with a napkin. With my one good eye, I watch the trees and the sun through the window as we race back to the park. My tiny body feels hot and cold at the same time, and I taste a mix of blood and artificial cherry in my mouth. I blink and I'm back at the game. I'm standing there, the sun beating down on a sweltering August day. The blood engulfing my face quickly congeals to the size of a pinprick, then disappears. The canines viciously sinking into my face retreat. My tiny toddler arms unwrap themselves from around the neck of the dog, who resumes its slumber. My feet walk backwards to the concession stand, and I return the cherry slushie, getting my quarters back. I hear the footsteps sprinting around the bases in reverse, the loud crack of the baseball. The dog's owner walks the dog out of the stands, back in the car. My feet race up the tree I was climbing, and the red clay stains disappear from my dress. I climb back down, and my feet traipse backwards towards my brother, lugging his bat bag behind him. Together, along with my parents, we lumber back to the car, get in, and roll back home. I blink, and I'm waking up in my bed. It's 10 a.m., and my brother has a baseball game today. I blink again, 13 years later. Oh, it's just a scar.
And finally, in first place, we have junior Ashley Marshall with her story 0 to 9.
My entire life, I've seen numbers floating above people's heads. They're small and invisible to everyone else but me. And after 20 years, I still have no idea what they represent. Almost everyone I know has a 0. I'll see the occasional 1 about twice a year, and I've seen only 1, 2 before. For as long as I can remember, I fantasized about what those numbers mean. During my freshman year, I thought they represented the years until someone dies, but most of my classmates with 0s showed up the following year. During sophomore year, I speculated that they corresponded to someone's impact on the world, but the 0 that I saw in the mirror each day made me doubt this theory. By college, I accepted that I would never figure it out, until I met Jace. When I saw his number for the first time in our philosophy class, I let out a loud "holy" in the middle of the lecture. I gaped at the 9 that hovered just above his hairline. After this initial encounter, I did nothing short of stalking him. I checked his Instagram, followed him to parties, and sat next to him in class. He must have thought I was into him, which was true, to an extent, because he asked me out about a month later. Although his number attracted me initially, I couldn't deny that he was attractive, with hazel eyes and dirty blonde hair. He had a goofy awkwardness to him, as if he didn't know how to stand or what to do with his hands in a conversation. On each date, I probed deeper into anything that could tell me what made this boy so special. Nothing came up. Until one winter night, my world turned upside down. Cuddling together on my dorm room couch, binge-watching Game of Thrones, I lay my head on his chest, his 9 hovering around the edge of my periphery. As our episode transitioned to commercial, the introduction music of the local news channel suddenly occupied the screen. A woman spoke directly into the camera. "We interrupt this regularly scheduled broadcast to bring you some breaking news. NYPD just issued an APB out on Jacob Carnegie, accused of robbing a local jewelry store and killing the security guard. The security footage was released to us half an hour ago. We advise caution. The following footage may be graphic for some viewers." Despite the distorted video, I could clearly make out 2 people in the frame. Both were men. Both were 0s. One lay on the ground, struggling to stand. The other man stood over him, a gun trained on the injured man's head. Without hesitation, the man with the gun fired 2 rounds into the back of the victim's skull, killing him instantly. The victim collapsed on the pavement, unmoving. His blood slowly seeped into the snow. My hand over my mouth and my eyes brimming with tears, I watched helplessly as the shooter's number clicked from a 0 to a 1.
So there you go with 2020's winners. As I said, you'll have a chance to read their stories in this year's signature, as well as stories by other finalists. Anyone who submitted a story should strongly consider sending it in for possible publication. A couple of thank yous to the Warren Fund for supporting the cash prizes, and English Department Chair Debbie Ohayon for always being such a strong advocate for the contest, and to film guru David Silverman for editing this video. Once again, thank you to all the participants for getting involved in the contest and thinking a story into existence. It's a magical thing. Keep doing it. The stories for next year's contest are due in February. In the meantime, stay healthy, everybody.